Forward. Yeah. I hate to tell you, but it's the ones in the front of the class. They're the ones that. Right. Never fear. Don't sit in the back. Don't hide.
It's a Beyonce concert.
I'm gonna let you sit because if I sit on this, I'm gonna fall over. And you're younger than me.
That's true.
Is everybody? Hey, is this all, Joey? Is this the entire group? You think? Hey, that was it.
I'm sure. Who was carrying the sign?
The gentleman with the sign, probably.
There you go.
That's my guess. Okay, we'll wait a second then.
Okay, while we're waiting, where are you guys from?
San Jose.
Wow, I love San Jose. A lot. I go to Sharks games all the time.
Woo!
So which high school? Yeah. Oh, I'm loud enough. Am I loud enough?
But I think we're recording,
I'm loud enough.
so we will have to pass the mic around when we do the real questions.
We're not ready, though.
No, we're just chit chat.
Chit chat.
Yeah, just so
We
yeah.
need to know one another. So I noticed there's 1, 2, 3, 4 women right now in this group. 5. So, so I'm speaking to you girls. Don't let anything stop you. Got it? Gotta keep pushing forward. It's for yours to take. Not saying that you gentlemen aren't important either. You are.
However.
Okay. But I always have to give a shout out to the women because, it's really hard always being the only woman in the room sometimes. Come forward, you guys. Come forward. Don't sit right back there. Come on. We're not gonna bite. Come on.
Only the seats in the first row have gift cards underneath them.
All right, so we'll kick it off. So Scott Movey, I'm with Microsoft. I'm in our philanthropies group, and at Microsoft, 20-ish years, mainly technical roles. Now run a global AI program for us. What we're going to do is we're going to talk to our panelists, understand really what their career pathway was, what their daily jobs are. I got a handful of other questions. We run until 10:45, so we'll probably go for half an hour amongst ourselves, and then I'll throw it over to you guys to ask some questions. And the way we'll do it is, since we're being recorded, we'll want to make sure that the questions get on this. So we have a microphone that I'll throw to you, and it's a mic. So that you got to talk into it like this. Alrighty, so we're just going to go down the line. So what's your current role? How did you get into it? What's your daily life like? Daily job like? And there's the mic.
Hi. Is it on? It's on. Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel. I work at the Berkeley lab. And my job is I do something called site reliability engineering. And to not get into details, it's basically software engineering concepts that we take and we apply them to operations. And so what I do specifically is I work at the supercomputing center up at the lab. And it's a very big data center, and we have cutting edge technology, and the supercomputer, the one that we have right now, is number 13 in the top 500, so that's pretty high. We're getting a new one next year. And basically, my job is to make sure that everything in the data center runs smoothly. So it's the supercomputers, but also the data center environment, and all the infrastructure that supports the supercomputers and the users, like file systems, networks, and so on. So that's site reliability engineering, and that's the intro. What was that?
How did you get? What was your career path?
Okay, so I don't have a degree. I went to a community college for a bit. I went to Laney College, and it was great. So I'm mostly self-taught, and I did a lot of hardware type stuff before going to Laney, but I could, for some reason, I couldn't start teaching myself programming. And so I went to Laney, and I took a few background programming classes, data structures and algorithms and such, and that really helped to get me started. And then I picked up a few things along the way. And so this is my first job. The job at the lab is my first job. I've been at the lab for about 4 years now.
Great.
Yeah.
so I can contest that Daniel's really super smart. Super, super smart. My name is Tammy Campbell. I also work at the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory. I've been there for 38 years. I was a UC Berkeley student, got a student internship at the laboratory. I've had 7 to 8 different jobs there. And now I lead a team of 28 engineers. We do all the mobile desktop support plus scientific VMs for the laboratory. So we
And VMs,
don't,
assuming they're not all.
yeah, VMs, but we don't do the big stuff like Daniel does. We do all that mid-tier computing for all those scientists that are doing smaller projects. A virtual machine, we call it, right? So it's a virtual computing environment for our scientists. For example, some of them can't afford a $10,000 to $20,000 hardware server, so we spin up a virtual machine for them to do their compute in local storage or even storage in AWS, and they can do what they can do. His is a bigger machine. Ours is smaller, mid-tier. And then we have the desktop, right? So everybody has to have some kind of local compute. Let's see. What else were we supposed to say?
Career pathway.
Career pathway. Well, I started at
Yeah.
UC Berkeley as a student.
But your jobs, you said like
But I
7
had
jobs.
I
What
had
were
several
some of them?
different jobs. There was a job called the report coordinator job at the laboratory that I wrote a database years ago to track all the scientific reports that were written at the laboratory and submitted to the Department of Energy. I did that in my early 20s. My favorite career was taking the photo lab from chemical photography to digital photography in the 90s when Apple was just getting back on board. So that was like really, really cool. I got to fly in a helicopter over the Bay Area with both doors off with a camera. We took aerial pictures of the entire Bay Area and of the laboratory. So those are the kind of cool things you can do. The reason I stayed at the laboratory was not about money, but it was about the science. What we do is support the scientists at the laboratory. They're the ones that discover millions of different things every day. And I've got to work personally with 3 Nobel laureates. So that's really pretty cool. I want to say science is really cool. So let me pass it on next.
Hello, I'm Randy Riggins. I'm a founder of Give TV. We make a philanthropic TV show where we match up donors with small nonprofits. We have a celebrity ambassador visit them, and then the donor puts up a pot of money. It visits the 2 nonprofits. They tell the story, and then 2/3 through the ambassador decides how to split it between the 2 nonprofits. Most of the time they don't know what's going on, but just depends. We've done 2 seasons of the show. We won Emmys and a bunch of awards. So far, we've given away maybe $1.2 million to nonprofits. And Blair Underwood and Jenna Bush are the kind of standing ambassadors that go around. But we've had people from Connie Stevens, who most of you guys don't know who that is, to Mark Teixeira, like baseball players. So it's like a random list of folks. What I do there is help produce a TV show, but we're also, because of the show, we're building some tech around it, social media, an app, we really want to have giving and nominate nonprofits, and we got games and the whole idea, so we're building tech around it. So how I got here, I don't have a degree, is also I kind of self-taught myself. I started in hardware years and years ago, a long time ago. AMD when I was building chips, kind of worked through embedded systems, so I worked on a lot of different hardware systems. Got really out into audio video systems and building those, and worked on high-end switchers and DVs where you had a whole room just to do anything live. And
Fun stuff.
yeah, rolled that all the way down to the desktop, and worked 17 years at Adobe Systems in the audio video creative lab, building a lot of different products. I left my high-paying tech job in March to focus on this Give and this TV show, and so that's what I'm doing now.
Thank you.
Hi folks, I'm Justin Chu. I'm currently a product manager at Google. So product managers, typically we like to call them PMs. We focus on working with engineers, tons of folks right here, designers, researchers, data scientists, biz folks, all that jazz, on actually creating the future of our products. So what that means really is 3 things. One is the vision. What do you actually think in the next 3 or 5 years is going to happen? Next is the strategy. What are the things you're going to invest in to actually make that vision happen? And the last thing is the tactics, meaning what are you actually going to do every day to make sure your strategy is successful? So at Google, I've been there about 8 years now. I've worked on YouTube, Google Maps, some of our ads products, don't hate me, and back to YouTube right now, focusing on gaming. And so for my career path, I focused first on studying computer science here at Berkeley. And then I realized as a software engineer, every lunch, I couldn't get excited to talk about software engineering still, after working on that for about 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours at night. And so I realized, oh man, if I can't sleep and breathe this topic, what I want to do instead, because I do love tech. I do love actually building new things. And so I learned about product management, which is, once again, you get to be involved with the tech, understand it, and build things with it to help people. And I learned about a rotation program, actually at Google, called the Associate Product Management Program. And that place got me really stoked because it lets you travel. So I actually got to spend about 5 years in Australia and London and England with this program, working on a bunch of cool things before coming back to California.
Hello, my name is Jasmine Lawrence, and I'm a technical program manager at Facebook. I work with product managers on a day-to-day basis, but as a technical program manager, I'm primarily focused on execution. So we take those strategies and those tactics, and we actually figure out who are the different partners across the company do we need to work with, what are the designs of the systems and the actual technology we'll use to bring that vision to life. I work on the blood donations product at Facebook, where our mission is to make sure that the world has a safe and sustainable supply of blood. We do that by bringing blood banks onto Facebook and helping them recruit potential donors on the platform. So if you guys go to your profiles today, you can go in your About section, and there's a private place where you can say, yes, I want to be a blood donor. And then when someone like the American Red Cross or Vitalant has a blood request in your area, you'll receive a notification letting you know, hey, please donate. We know there are real crises happening around the world and in your local area. And every time you donate, you can save up to 3 lives, and most people can donate 3 to 4 times a year. So that's like 1 life every month, every year for the rest of your life that you can save. So before Facebook, I started my career watching sci-fi movies at home, specifically watching a movie called Bicentennial Man, which is a movie with Robin Williams where he plays like a humanoid robot. At 8 years old, I was like, that's going to be my job. That's what I'm going to do for a living. To do that, I started studying engineering when I was in high school through a program called Project Lead the Way. And then I went to the Georgia Institute of Technology, go Jackets, studying computer science. I started as a computer engineer doing hardware as well, but then I wanted to switch from the bodies to the brains of the devices. So I studied computer science, studying devices and artificial intelligence. Got my first full-time job at Microsoft, working on the R&D team that would turn into the product team for the Xbox One. As a product manager there for 4 years, building stuff like clubs, trending, game DVR for any of you guys who have an Xbox. Then transitioned over to work on the Microsoft HoloLens to help us sell like a huge advanced technology of augmented reality in the enterprise space. I quit that job 2 years ago because my mom got really sick and she lives here in California. And I also got the opportunity to work at a huge company called SoftBank Group that was buying up a massive amount of tech companies, and they have like a $100 billion vision fund where they pour money into emerging industries. And so they had just started up a U.S. office to do exactly what I wanted to do. So being closer to my family, and finally after almost 20 years being able to work in the industry of my dreams is what led me to California. I left after 9 months because I recognized there was a lack of vision, a lack of strategy, and just like startups are tough in the early days where they're figuring out what they want to do, when I'm so used to working in organizations that have these like 20-year roadmaps or 50 million, 60 million customers where every day you ship something, you're immediately making impact. So I recognized like that wasn't a good fit for me, and like maybe in 5 years when they're a little more, got their heads on straight, like I would go back to it. But I got the job at Facebook after one of my professors from Georgia Tech was there on just a short-term research stint. They recommended that I join this team called Building 8. I took the job offer completely blind, no idea what I'd be working on. Ended up working on a product called Portal from Facebook, which is a video communication device that helps you connect with people from all around the world using WhatsApp and Messenger. I left that role because I really enjoyed working on the specific piece I was working on, which was accessibility. So my goal was not to build the base of the product, but to make sure that whatever we built, people who were blind or physically impaired or mobility impaired or hearing impaired could still effectively use the device. And it was the first time since Xbox 5 years before where my heart was in the work, not just my brain. It wasn't just a technical challenge, but seeing those people and the usability studies fail because we didn't build something and then succeed in being able to connect and laugh and talk with their loved ones, even if they couldn't see or they couldn't hear. It was incredible to be able to give people that kind of superpower. So I switched over to working on blood donations because it was a very, very hard technical problem of connecting hundreds of millions of people around the world in countries where people are dying like of preventable things. Yeah. So that's kind of my journey. Oh, and on the side, for the last 15 years, I've run my own company that makes all natural hair and body care products that we sell in Target and Walmart and pretty much almost every major retailer in the US. But that's a different story.
So one thing I'd like to hear is sort of, what's your daily life like? People have this sort of vision of software engineers sitting in front of screens all day, pizza shoved under the door, and writing code. And I think you sort of got a grasp from just sort of the different roles everyone has, sort of the different aspects of where the sort of what you do in the tech industry. But maybe what did you do yesterday, or what's the afternoon look like? What are some concrete examples that we could sort of talk like task list side? And maybe Jazz, we'll start with you. We'll come down this way.
Yesterday I didn't go to work. I had a migraine, but
yeah, not there.
no, I had a migraine, which is like a terrible headache that makes you not be able to see. But today is actually just the beginning of a huge. Yeah, it's a huge busy day for me. I woke up this morning and jumped on a chat. We use chat like Messenger at work to try and coordinate a new product that we're launching today that will allow any blood bank in the 5 countries we're live in to ask us for the product versus us having to spend manpower going out and pursuing them. So we feel like it'll help us get to 100% market share in the areas that we're in. That couldn't launch until the instructions for how to use that software was translated into over 27 different languages, because even though we're only in 5 countries, there are a lot of different languages used. So yeah, that needs to happen. Someone will click a button that will make the software go live on the internet. And then there are a few people who have partnerships or relationships with people around the globe who will then send emails that will then propagate to applications of people applying for the product. And then later this afternoon, I will meet with my operations team that actually vets and verifies the blood banks and make sure they're legit and not just like back alley organ harvesting organizations. And we'll measure our capacity. So how many invites are coming, or how many requests are coming in, how many are we able to process in 24 hours, and how quickly can we commit to a timeline for getting them onboarded. And then tomorrow we will start looking at like our server capacity and things like that to make sure like we're not getting overwhelmed, because I only proposed enough capacity in the hardware for a certain estimation. So that's what I will be doing today, in addition to planning future products that are on our roadmap as defined by our product manager and our engineering team.
All right.
Yay.
Yeah,
good luck. So a PM's dream is to focus most of their day, like you can imagine Steve Jobs, you sit in a room and like passion hits you and you're like, this is the future of the world. That's not what happens, unfortunately. Really, so for like day to day, I'd say about maybe up to 10% of your time, you're actually be able to sit down with a giant whiteboard like those commercials you have for Facebook and Google, and tons of algorithms on the thing and like all these great designs. But most of the time, it's mostly tactics focused, right? So like really what that means is on the vision and strategy side, once you define it, you have to actually sell it. You're a storyteller, right? Everybody here on this stage probably has heard a bad PM pitch that made them go, not gonna do that. And they've also hopefully heard a good PM pitch, which gets them excited. It gets them stoked to say, wow, in 3 to 5 years, I'm gonna make that happen with you. And so often, I tell the same story 5 to 10 times a day to a different audience, whether it's my business team, my sales team, my legal team, engineering's probably my biggest people I wanna make sure they're stoked about it, my design team. Storytelling's a big part of my day. I'd say it's probably half of my day, is making sure people buy in to what we're trying to do together. Often, besides that, you're dealing with customers. So with bigger companies, you often have folks on the support teams, folks like that are managing your partners. On smaller startups, you're actually talking directly to your users, which is great. You understand their problems, you understand what they're trying to do with your product, why it stinks, why it's awesome, and actually help you decide what to do next with your product. So that's a big chunk of your time is talking to these users. And then also you're hopefully designing, right? You're thinking about the future. You're actually documenting what you think the next future is going to be like, right? So that's, for folks who are fast typers, you're going to love it. Basically, you're going to be able to type, hopefully document faster and make your pitches and decks and whatnot even more efficient. So I'd say that really, in summary, it's you're storytelling to a bunch of different audiences. You have to know your audience, know what they care about. You're persuading because you don't actually have any authoritative control over anybody, and they all kind of want to do their own thing, which is great because they're all smart and want to do crazy things. So you're aligning, you're negotiating all the time, and then you get to talk to your end user and celebrate when it's awesome, and then empathize when your product stinks, and then also you have to think, hopefully, often about what's going to happen in the next few years.
Well, we're a startup, so kind of doing everything, really. So I split my day, half of the day in the morning when it's quiet and before everybody's waking up, we just focus on developing the code and writing the app. So, I'm talking to the designers, seeing what the latest designs are, and we're kind of laying the infrastructure for this mobile app, the companion app for the TV show, and trying to test ideas out about what we can do there. And then after lunch, I kind of switch into content mode. So we're developing an international version of the TV show, Mexico and the UK. In Mexico, we want to be Spanish speaking and focus on Spanish nonprofits. So we're trying to figure out who we can find in Mexico that's kind of like can vet some of the nonprofits, so like we know that they're legit in what they're doing. And then we're doing some of these deals with Discovery because we're on NBC before, so we're doing this big content switch. So it's like on the phone a lot, talking to people, and just having meetings and keeping them up to date, and just trying to synchronize all this stuff we got this master schedule where we're trying to say, okay, well, if the Mexico version of the show appears somewhere mid-2020, we'd like to have the app here, and it's got to be multilingual, and what's the requirements, and try to orchestrate this whole coordinated event. So 2020, we really have a lot of big plans are coming out and trying to figure out. So every day I'm trying to meet a goal that we're set down in time and trying to see am I on that path every time. And so that's what a lot of my day is just checking to see, am I doing the most important thing I can do right now to get to the goals we're trying to get? And then checking, like, is that the right goal anyway, right? You got to question it sometimes. So it's just, that's the constant loop.
So what's my day like? So we start out with a scrum every morning, believe it or not, for 15 minutes, because we have 28 engineers going in 28 different directions. Right now, we've got 2 major projects. You all know that Windows 7 is going away. We have the countdown clock of January 14th, 2020.
You're
and
welcome.
Our scientists, you're welcome. Our scientists don't believe that it's going to really happen. And remember that they do have operating systems. They have computers hooked to multi-million-dollar microscopes or pieces of equipment. So we're doing this mass assessment across the hill. I think we've gone down from about 3,500 Windows 7 machines to now I think we're sitting at 800. And some of them which will never go off Windows 7. And so we have to think of alternative plans for these computers and making sure that we have backup hardware for them, because a scientist is not going to go out and spend multi-million dollars on a new microscope just to upgrade an operating system.
It'd be worth it, though. Good product.
So we're working on that project. Then we're also doing multi-factor authentication. UC Berkeley, we're now part of their HR system, and they require multi-factor authentication. And so though we have our ops people already doing multi-factor authentication and our more higher security people doing it, the rest of the laboratory, your everyday, day-to-day director of the laboratory, is a challenge to get them to understand multi-factor authentication and how important that really is today for you to be all doing right now in everything that you do, because your identity is important. Believe it or not, for me, the only reason I really do my multi-factor is I'm protecting my images, though my images are out there, but I don't want them to get destroyed in any way, shape, or form, right? My credit cards, my bank accounts, that's really, really super important. The laboratory is being bombarded, just like Microsoft, Facebook, Google, all the time. Thank goodness Google, they run our mail system. We are a Google shop. We don't have to really kind of worry about that so much anymore because they take that off our back. But it's just the day-to-day things that our scientists, and we have scientists that come from all over the world. We have 3 major facilities, national facilities, up at the laboratory, user facilities, and so can you imagine what they bring to the laboratory? We have no DMZ. We are open to the world. You can hop on our network anytime. So our cybersecurity guys are running around analyzing everything. Everything is treated like hostile element and enemy. But my day is customer service, kind of corralling the team, keeping them focused, reviewing their tickets, looking at my dashboards to make sure that we didn't drop the ball on something, and project management. And I got to interview 2 interns yesterday. So we're hiring right now out of the community colleges. We go to the local colleges and ask for interns to help us day to day. And about 95% of our interns that have gone through our program are either working at the laboratory or working somewhere in the industry in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley.
All right, so we have about, I don't know, I think it was 14,000 users from all over the world, scientists, that expect that they will be able to log into our supercomputers and run their jobs. So as my job title is Site Reliability Engineer, then that comes first, right? So if we have an issue with a supercomputer, then I basically drop everything and then I coordinate, I do what I can do, and I coordinate with my coworkers and folks from other groups to fix it and to get the outage, to complete all the problems, to troubleshoot, and to fix it as soon as we can. So that's like priority number 1. Then I have priority number 2, where we have my group, and I personally have services and infrastructure, services that collect data from our data center and do different things. And these services sometimes have issues, and sometimes they go down, and they're not operationally critical, as in they don't affect users, they are internal. But they do collect important data that we want to have. So that's priority number 2. If it breaks, then I drop everything and I fix it. And so it's all cutting edge technology, so it breaks a lot. And the supercomputers break a lot. Like we have, yes, that's a fact. So then the number 3 priority is my favorite part, is writing code. Unfortunately, it's the number 3 priority. So if nothing is happening, everything is operational, everything works, there's no unhappy users, and there's no urgent things happening, no fires to put out, then I basically sit down and I write code, and it's basically, it boils down to, we do a lot of operational things, and we learn how to do them sort of manually, more or less. And then you take that, what you've learned, and you develop automations and integrations, making different tools talk to each other, making different systems talk to each other, to make sure that basically we do less manual work, and then we can do more fun, exciting projects. Yeah, and then I also interview interns, and we have interns in our group that I train, and I help them with their projects. So I'd say a couple times a week, I sit down with our folks who are assigned to specific projects, and we whiteboard, we talk about where they are right now, what the roadblocks are, how can I help, stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
we have a pretty big intern program at the laboratory. So don't always think about
hint.
them, though they are really sexy and great businesses. Think about us, we're science.
All right, I've got a few more questions, but I think I'll take a pause and see if there's questions from any of the students. And so just as a reminder for the people that came in late, that the process is I throw you the mic, and then you talk into the top of it.
Wow.
All right. Wonderful throw, really. But
So, okay.
Stop,
So,
yep.
Jasmine, I heard you mentioned that you did Project Lead the Way, and I'm in the course right now, and I've heard that it's really cool. I've heard that it helps you get into college, but I was wondering how how that background information helped you once you were actually in college and with learning.
Yeah, some of the best classes were principles of engineering, computer integrated manufacturing, and then we had we had a basic class. Okay. We also had a C class. Did people use C, right? Okay. Yeah, it was great to already have the familiarity with like the hardware, with taking advanced physics courses. So with a Project Lead the Way, when you get it in your high school, at least for me, I took it in New Jersey, we had to apply in middle school so they could like save the money so that the math teachers could get paid and so that we could buy the materials for the course. But you get access to like computer chips and like these little suitcases kind of that are just full of electronics that you get to play with, and you get to do mechanical engineering, you get to do physics, you get to do so much, you have so much exposure, which I feel like a lot of people don't get until they're freshmen in college. So I knew that I wanted to write software or be in the software space before I even like went to a school, and it was a lot easier for me to find schools that have the academic programs that align with what I wanted to do beforehand. On the other side, we also got like people who went to schools in my area like Rutgers or Drexel or things like that. Speakers from local schools would come in and tell us about what engineering was really like, and they only gave those talks to the engineering students. In my school there were 2,000 students but only 17 engineers, so we really did get just so much focused attention because like nobody else wanted to do that much math or that much science or but on the flip side, we did have to start school at 6 a.m.
Oh.
We had to take our engineering courses before the regular school started, and most of us were taking multiple AP courses. So it was definitely a personal sacrifice, but I got a leg up in almost every undergraduate course that I took and could start doing research in robotics my first semester on campus because I knew the language, I knew the technology, I knew the software. So yeah, if you do have opportunities to either take courses online or join computer clubs at your school, I highly recommend it. It's a free advantage.
Robotics competition.
Yeah, or join the first robotics teams. Yeah. Look, okay. Yeah, would recommend. Yeah.
Other questions? Anyone else? Gotta be some other questions. Mine aren't that good. There's one over there. You want to throw it to her?
Sorry, it's a simple question. For those who came in late, could you guys quickly just introduce your name and like where you're from again? Yeah, thanks.
I'm Jasmine Lawrence. I'm a technical program manager at Facebook, previously at Microsoft working on Xbox and HoloLens, and SoftBank Robotics building social humanoids. And I also have my own company that makes hair and body care products that I've been running for the last 15 years.
Hi, folks. That's a high bar.
And the rest of us.
I'm Justin. Yeah, I'm a product manager at Google, currently on YouTube Gaming.
Randy Riggins. I'm a founder of Give TV. We make a philanthropic TV show and build tech around that show.
I'm Tammy Campbell. I work at the Berkeley lab right above the hill here. And I'm team lead for 28 engineers, and we do all the desktop, mobile, and scientific VM support.
My name is Daniel Gans. I also work at the Berkeley lab, and I do something called site reliability engineering. Basically, I support the supercomputer that we have up at the lab.
And Scott Mauvais, Microsoft, been there 20 years, mainly technical roles, but I'm over on the philanthropic side of the house now, running an international program around AI for good. Other questions? Want to toss over there?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay. So what do you guys think is one myth about pursuing CS in starting from the undergraduate level that we should all know about if we want to choose that as an option in college?
Who's got the first thought? Jasmine?
You go for it.
Okay, this lesson hits really hard. And I don't know where you guys are in terms of like your class rankings, but in my school, it was really competitive, especially among us nerds, right? We do our homework at the last minute. We don't study because everything is easy and everything is just like, right? It's hard. And the number one thing is that you think you can just do it on your own because that's how you got through high school. You can't. you're gonna need to ask for help. And if that's hard for you, I recommend that you start getting some practice now. For me,
Ask for help getting help.
ask for help getting some help, because for me, there were study sessions in my dorm. There were upperclassmen who would volunteer their time. There were so many resources that when I first got there, I was like, I was number 3 in my class. I'm not going to a tutor. I'm not getting a tutor. I'm not joining a study group. That's stupid. I know what I'm doing. And like for some of the classes, yes, it was great. It was fine, but asking for help and joining a community, whether it's like in your major or whatever it is, I highly recommend you do it, because it's not something, college is not something you suffer through alone, that you have to be smart enough to do. It's about taking advantage of all the resources that are at your disposal and doing whatever it takes to succeed. Yeah.
Another thing for me is I think folks should go to school, like, obviously with the value system that they're trying to actually create. Like, so I mean that is oftentimes, I think, particularly engineering, which is awesome because the economy is strong and people can come in, they kind of have like this straight shot to a job, which is cool. But really in college, when you're exposed to so many different classes, the arts, the humanities, different science and math things, as well as different peers, you should really strive to figure out what matters to you. Some folks, things as simple as like great money and titles, that's cool. Other folks is more about humanitarian, health, bio. Other folks is art and music. And I think that's beautiful about computer science and tech is that you can apply that to everything. Because what computer science gives you is problem-solving skills, right? You can apply your problem-solving skills in a scaled way. And without values, though, and knowing truly what gets you going, you might be on a path where like it's comfortable for a bit, but then things kind of don't fulfill you. And you're in this weird spot mentally where like you're making good money, you feel like you're proud of yourself, but you're actually not sure what you're doing in the world. So I think a myth maybe is that like, hey, once you get to a good school, it's all good. You're gonna go straight to a great job and things are rad, even though you have to study really hard. Really, I think you have to work yourself on identifying what matters. And I think at any school with a good set of peers, you're able to do that.
So I want to offer a different perspective. So when you think about college, also explore not going to college. As someone who doesn't have a degree, I also know that it is possible to have a career in CS without a degree. And there's a lot of resources, such as community colleges and just classes, online classes and classes that will give you skills that are needed to get your first job. And once you get your foot in the door, at some point, basically very soon, within the first 5 years of your career, you will have skills and experience, and your resume will count way more than your degree. Nobody will ever look at your degree. So just explore your options, and also another really good option is doing transfer from community college. So going to community college for 2 years, transferring to a 4-year, it's cheaper and just as good in my opinion. But yeah, that's just a little bit of a different perspective.
Yep. Great. Yeah, I think there's a lot of paths for lots of different folks.
So I still want to tell you, though Daniel said you don't really need to have that great degree, I'm going to tell you, you really do. Because I had one kid that went to 4-year. I had one kid that went to a community college and finished up in a university. You have an advantage. Those resume bots are there for a reason. And some go left and some go right. And there is some bias. As much as we try to talk about implicit bias and making people aware that it's there, the people that are hiring have it. So it's just another thing that shows that you persevered in doing something and accomplishing something. I'm going to make a big pitch for soft skills. Project management, logic, being on time, people. Waking up and being on time, really, really important. And communication is the biggest. Communicate to me what your needs are, where you're at, right? If you have a good boss, they're going to understand and work with you, because our job as bosses is to make sure that we have a team of people that want to be there. We want you to be there. We want you to be happy. So learn communication skills, people skills. That'll get you way far.
We've probably got time for one more question. And please don't make it mine. You'll be much more interested if it's your question as opposed to my question. Anyone? So I guess I'll go. So in the minute or so, maybe a minute each, what do you imagine the next 5 years? How are things changing? So when they're ready to enter the job market, what should they be prepared for?
Yeah. So I think the There you go. So I think I love my job as a product manager because you work with so many people all the time. Like I said, the technical program managers, the engineers, designers, the biz folks, everybody. And I think if anything, every job, particularly engineering, is going to require more soft skills, more communication skills, and more cross-disciplinary and cross-topic understanding and empathy. Right? So for folks that I work with now, people who are really excelling are people who did things like studied CS and then played piano. They painted, they write songs, do poetry, and they're really good at astrophysics. Like the ability to actually combine the right and left, the ability to think logically and emotionally and use those to build new tools, new services, better things for the world is gonna be huge, right? So for me right now, the majority of Google PMs actually come from tech backgrounds. And actually we've recognized internally, it's kind of a flaw. It's kind of a thing where we know that just by being so narrow focused, you're creating a particular type of product. And we're really proud of that. We make good Gmail, I think, good technical products. But there's a human element, I think, that we all want to do more of, right? And so I think for folks who are interested in anything, right, being able to dance between both languages, the math, the science, as well as the art, that's going to be a big deal. I think that's going to be really rewarded even within the next 5 years.
Yeah, I think what you're hearing a lot is just about a balance, right? I worked at Adobe for a lot of years in the creative space, and most of the software engineers at Adobe played music, did videos, they did something creative, and they kind of built those tools. So they used the software to say, this is what I want to do with it, versus I have this computer science degree, I just want to go work wherever I want to work at, right? So having that balance, the other thing I love about tech is it's always changing. It's forever changing. So being autodidactic and knowing that, okay, whatever I learned in school, those are just the principles and my foundation. But 3 years from now, somebody invents something new, everybody's got to move to that. So who knows what's really going to happen in 5 years? A mentor told me once, he said, maximize now, right? Do your best now, right? Because who knows, in 5 years, your kids might be saying, you guys had to type? Because things just change, like somebody invented some way to take brainwaves and communicate with computers and this mouse, keyboard, all this stuff just changes overnight,
You learned cursive? What's that?
Yeah, you just never know what's going to happen. So just be flexible, keep a balance, keep learning, and then you can navigate whatever's going to come your way.
I think it's really important to visualize in your mind that your impact can be local and global. Right? So as people studying technology, look around in your community. You guys can be the entrepreneurs that create the technology that solves the problems that only exist in your neighborhood. But when you actually then leave your neighborhood and go out into the world, you recognize that you're not the only population suffering with this challenge. And then you can take that and scale that literally around the world. So if you guys ever have an opportunity to leave California, to leave the United States, I urge you to do it because it will change your perspective on the world and change your perspective of gratitude in terms of what you have and other nations don't have, or the way that they live that you wish you could model in our country or in your neighborhood. So definitely try and look at that micro and macro levels of impact and where you can have influence. Like I love being at Facebook because I get to, 2 billion people are impacted by the work that we do there, but I also like to make sure that the kindergartners in my community know how to read, right? And that there's somebody encouraging them so they can be the next Mark Zuckerbergs or be the next whoever it may be making that global impact. So yeah.
So I'm going to make a pitch for the laboratory because that's what I always do. It is probably the best place in the world to work. I've worked with so many scientists, but I've also had supervisors that allowed me to have my career and my children and support me in everything that I've done. I've had the opportunity to go from the bottom as a student, assistant, intern, to leading a group of people and still get to work with some really cool scientists. So when you know that your support actually supports a scientist who finds a cure to something, that gives you such value in your life, right? So I want you to think about even when you get up against the hard part, right? When you're in school and you think you can't do it, just keep pushing. You guys can do it. You're way smarter than me. I'm gonna tell you. You guys are learning a lot now. Soak it in. Take it to the next degree. And if you can't afford a university, go to a community college and then transfer into the university. And get that degree if you can. And never stop learning. Be flexible. Look for opportunities. Matter of fact, there's lots of opportunities at the laboratory to work in an internship. Just pitching.
The 30 seconds to bring us home is we're just about out of time.
Ooh.
No pressure.
No pressure. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of jump on the same bandwagon. So I know that was not the question. The favorite part,
That's
the favorite
fine.
part about my job right now is, and again, private sector is different, but so the favorite part about my job is what I do brings value, right? So I'm not, say, building an app for people to buy more stuff on. Nothing wrong with that, and it's a different kind of money, of course. But also, working in the lab, I know that, right? I support Big Size, and I can go and see what jobs are running, what projects, what people are doing, and it's some pretty cool stuff. And so, I think in 5 years, take the 5 years to think not what you want to do in terms of technical, like I want to write the code in this language, or I want to do that DevOps or something. But yeah, think about what your impact is going to be and what you want it to be. So
Right.
that's it.
So I'd like you to thank all the great panel for sharing their insight. Thank you. And I guess the signs go up and you follow your sign. I think it's the process.
Leave your own picture.